afternoon, everybody, or evening. Cameron and I got together after I showcased an amazing painting that Cameron done, but he recorded it all as he went through it. So there was hours and hours of work condensed down into literally about an hour. And it was done where it showed you all the different stages. And there's a video we're going to show you at some point where it's about 7 minutes long. So this is a very condensed version of a very condensed version, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And I had it on, I showcased it at one of our networking meetings, and I believe it was the International Networking Summit, because one, I feel recognition is very powerful, and especially with someone like when you get somebody as extraordinary as Cameron and his gift. And Cameron's an ECI member. I wanted to showcase obviously the effort and work that went into it. But the bit I took from it when I saw it, never mind the commitment, or some might call grit, the commitment to keep going, thousands and thousands of brushstrokes. The bit was that I found intriguing, that I, in my imagination, is that Cameron knew where every brushstroke was going to go before he actually put brush to canvas. And that's very much what an entrepreneur has to do. So the way I showcased the picture was, one, to showcase Cameron, but also I had to fit it into a business environment. And I utilised Cameron's video of his painting as a metaphor. And Cameron then came to me and sort of said, well, look, we could, what I portrayed there really sort of got the creative juices, the artistic part of Cameron working, and that's why we're here today. So Cameron and I are going to do our best to, one, showcase what he does, his system and process, and not to showcase Cameron. What we're trying to do is showcase the nuances and the subtleties and the planning and the vision and the communication of that vision in business by utilising what Cameron does at a very high level, and how he goes through what he does before he does it. And sometimes us entrepreneurs do it and we don't sketch it out or plan it out or nothing. We just fly by the seat of our pants. So Cameron, it's over to you. Yeah. Do you want to add anything onto that before we put the video up?
Just that when you did bring up the video in the International Networking Summit, there were a lot of comments that came to mind that I would have shared. I didn't want to hijack that meeting because I could go on and on. But you made a very interesting use of it as an illustration of the process of building a business. Forgive the pun. But some of the details of the process could deepen that exploration, illustration, example you were using it as. And I thought it might be worth having an opportunity to talk through that for the benefit of others in a separate moment where it's not hijacking another meeting. So
very good.
That's why I reached out to you about it.
Well, I thought it was brilliant when you made the suggestion. So I'm going to go to the end, I think, first, because I use the analogy with Cameron that of a jigsaw, see, is when you're doing a jigsaw, you have to, whether it's 500 pieces, 10,000 pieces, you have the box, and you just got to find the piece and look at the box, and you look at the different colours and everything, and then you put it together.
You got a complete vision, you know where you're headed.
Yeah. Well, Cameron does it the other way, as in he has to put all the pieces together. So this is really the picture on the box, but then we're going to take you back. This is the end result. Now, bear in mind, Cameron's painting this on a canvas, belief of oils. Is that correct, Cameron?
Yes.
Yeah. And every single part there is, I mean, we can't zoom in on it, but every single part is obviously individual brushstrokes. And I mean, if you look at the hair just up here, like if you look at the hair here, the way the light's coming from, and obviously the way the light's on the side here. So in my head, the sun's over this way, or the light source is over this way.
Right.
Obviously, it's darker here. But everything's there with individual brushstrokes. And the way I saw what Cameron did was that he knew every single brushstroke. before he done the brushstroke, which is very similar to a good business person. So that's the end result. And this is where we're going to take it back, because I think some people run before they can walk. And bear in mind, we're not on about a slow process, and we're not trying to slow you down. We're trying to make you more detailed in what you do. So Cameron, walk us through this piece here. I'm going to turn the sound down and just let it play in the background while you
Could you
illustrate.
back it up just a few more seconds?
Yeah.
There's a message at the beginning of this video I think is important for context, and that is that a painting is a careful construction made up of 100,000 decisions. We can call them brush strokes or marks, but it's a collection of 100, I just shorthand say 100,000 decisions. And that is part of what makes it a good metaphor for building a business or living a life or any number of things we could apply it to. It's a very drawn out process that starts with a vision, but it takes countless steps to bring the vision into reality.
I understand. And that's very similar. I mean, if we took it into goals or into business, the goal, a lot of people, I think, confuse the goal with the vision. Where the vision is the goal is what helps create the vision. Where a lot of people think the goal is the outcome, where the goal is a bit like one of those brushstrokes.
Yeah, I think both are correct, and both are necessary.
So on this piece here, because obviously you're sketching it out, you're trying to take the internal concept to an external reality. So in the metaphor, this is a bit like you said earlier, that when you and I were sort of bouncing this around before we started recording, where this was like a pitch deck. This is like, obviously you're not pitching here, but in the business world, it's like a good pitch deck, a good executive summary, but this is the prep for the pitch deck. This is where
the white paper, your notes. This is kind of a rehearsal of getting what's in my head on a piece of paper to see how I still feel about it. It's combining multiple references and multiple ideas from different places in one drawing to see if they still work well together. And it's also, like you say, it can be like the proposal, seeking funding, seeking a loan, seeking business partners, saying, this is where I'm headed, this is the idea, how do you feel about it? What do you see here?
And like, obviously, I think anyone can appreciate the individual. And am I correct in saying this is all a pencil drawing, Cameron, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's black and white pencil on a piece of gray paper.
So these are all individual pencil marks.
Yep.
Yeah. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly.
Maybe. And the fact that you're, drawing very fast and scribbling doesn't change the fact that each one of those marks is an individual mark. And so the speed is relative.
And what as well, I think sometimes when it comes to business is scaling. And what size card this is on, because obviously looking at your hands and different things, like it looks about a 9 inches
12.
by, yeah, I was going to say that 9 by 12.
Yeah, about the size of A4 paper.
And the finished canvas is,
it's 36 by 48 inches, so almost a meter by about a meter and a quarter.
Gotcha. So back here, this is just a small illustration, and then you've got to take all of this and scale it up. Yeah,
that's
to
right.
This size, yeah,
that's right.
And obviously, you're going from, I would imagine at this stage, it's very easy. Just there's two colours here. I'm assuming just the black and the white, and with the grey as the initial card on the grey. So there's three
Correct.
colours: the canvas colour, the white for light, and the black for like the sketching out, like to get the overall. So this, to me, would be
Right.
the idea stage.
Correct. And I don't know. I think there's a metaphor in this too. I can actually get five or more shades of black, white, and gray, depending on how hard I make the mark, how
Gotcha.
hard I hit the point. And so there
Yeah,
are
very good.
details in building a business that we can hit harder than others
Yeah,
to get greater impact or place greater emphasis on them. Sometimes that's the right thing to do, and sometimes it's not.
gotcha. And when it's at this stage, and what I'm going to do, because there's a stage that comes after this, that I obviously for you, I'm imagining it's the stage where you. So I'm going to message into it, but I'm not trying to control it because it's a very in business. It's a very profound skill, and as an artist, I would imagine it's a very profound skill. So I'm drawing an association to the two because there's something I think entrepreneurs do that actually, when they skip a load of steps, they go from this would be the idea in the vision stage, and
Right?
they leap and they scalve too quickly, and they go and they communicate in this stage. Yeah. Now their
Yeah.
ecosystem, their friends, their family, their customers, prospects, yeah, their potential business partners or business partners, investors or whatever, they're communicating this end vision to them.
Right.
And some of them haven't even got this stage done yet.
Right. And that's a real challenge because even before I do this, even before I make the sketch, I already have a pretty clear vision in my mind of the final result. I already see it in my mind as if it already exists. And I suspect entrepreneurs struggle with the same thing.
Yeah, I think they're very, I think from working, I think you know yourself, I work with loads of them. What I think they're very good at, and they confuse it with this stage, or most importantly, the next stage, is they think by being able to communicate it, people can see it. They
No.
think by them communicating it, people can understand it and embody it, and they can't because sometimes you need a bit like in networking. We say, "Have you got any deliverables?" And they go, "What do you mean deliverables? I've got a brochure." No, that's a brochure. Yeah, it's deliverables. What can we message on your behalf? If I'm talking to an investor, what have you got that we realise was an idea? It's at the idea stage, Lee. Yeah, but if you've got anything to illustrate, yeah. Like, well, I've got my business plan, yeah, but that's just really like I've got the pens and paper and I'm using grey and white and yeah, but I've laid it all out, put a lot of work into it. Yeah, but they're not going to be able to see the end result. Have you got something? You understand what I mean?
Right. Yes, I
They,
do. I do.
they go from this, and this is even worse. I think they go from this, and they want the big brand, and they're already talking about the brand, and they haven't even got the product right yet. But
No, it's
this is
true.
the bit, this piece that you done, or I assume you done, because bear in mind I've only watched it in a very quick look because you took hours and sped it all up.
Right.
Is this bit that I find best matches the business world to a T, and I think it's something the entrepreneurs miss. And the reason I think they miss it is they jump from present to the future. They see it. We're going to work with these companies. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it's all pretend, really. It's not. It's very real for them. Probably a bit like you can see the end result in the canvas.
Right.
The only difference is you can put it on a canvas, and all their canvases, their brushstrokes are their words, their sentence structure. But worse then, if their brushstrokes, their language, and the way they communicate it doesn't hit right on the end, that feedback loop can then take away their passion and make them feel overwhelmed or it can affect their self-image. And then they come back to this
Yep.
stage and they think their idea is too big for them. And then they start to scale it down. I won't draw this canvas. I'm just going to draw this arm,
Right.
if you understand me. But this piece, I think, is the piece that I'd like you to explain this to people. I'm going
Yes.
to leave it paused here because this piece is what a really good entrepreneur will do. Because this is where
Right.
you pick it up from here.
Right. So I think you're right about entrepreneurs. I mean, we want to create the vision because we're seduced by it. And because we're so seduced by it or in love with it, we want to jump to the thing. We already exist there in our minds. It's a very present thing for us. And you're right. Other people can't see it. We have to show it to them. Now, every artist has a different process. Probably every entrepreneur develops their own quirky process. And what I mean by process is you have to figure out how you produce the end result best. What's your optimized order of operations? Now, for me, we started with the A4 size drawing, right? And I'm putting it on a, 1 meter by over a meter size canvas. It's hard to see in the picture, but there is a 1 inch grid that covers the canvas. When I've created the vision in the references or the sketch, I overlay a grid that matches the size of the canvas I'm going to put it on. I draw a 1 inch grid on the canvas I'm going to use, and that enables me to make a precise enlargement. It's very boring, it's very tedious, but it enables me to put all of the details in exactly the right place from the beginning. In a way, it's like a DIY paint by numbers. There are a lot of things required to make that complete vision. There's the drawing or the draftsmanship, which means all the details in the right place. There's light and shade, relative, black to white and everything in between. There's color theory. There's composition, which is the design side. You have to address all of those things to get the final result you want. I have broken up my process, as you can see illustrated in these videos, to where I'm only ever addressing one of those issues at a time. So that first phase is just draftsmanship. Just get the most important details in the right place. Then I move on to roughing in the colors, as I'm doing here now. And then I'm tweaking, I'm correcting. There's a lot of process in here. There's a brilliant book called Ready, Fire, Aim. And it's very much that kind of process. You have to do something to have something to react against. If it stays the vision in your mind without any activity, there's nothing to react against. And maybe the activity is you get it right the first time. And maybe it's not quite right the first time.
This piece here.
Yeah.
This is a minute, so I'll come back to this and we skip forward to that. I mean, even the colours don't look the same. No,
nope.
So and obviously this, even though at the time doesn't look like the end result,
no,
but is entirely necessary.
Yes. And what I'm doing here is setting myself up for the next stages. Each stage is setting myself up for success in the next stage. And the only reason I can do that is experience. I've made several hundred paintings.
Yeah.
And I know what happens if I do A, B, or C. I will get X, Y, Z.
Gotcha.
And I like to say to artists, and it applies to entrepreneurs too, if you look at what I've done and you think it's good and you're impressed by it, and you look at where you're at and you think, oh, I'm just not even close, bear in mind that the difference between where I'm at and where you're at might simply be a product of repetition.
understand. Yeah.
The difference between where you're at and where I'm at is 300 of these.
Yeah. We done a team exercise years ago because one of my companies used to do corporate team building. And sometimes we would work with teams like 50 or 100 people. We could have them outside, like on an adventure park, or we could have them inside in a classroom. And one activity we utilised quite frequently was canvases and paints.
Hmm.
But they would have, and it would be like a team collaboration drawing. So
Okay.
first of all, we would give them these A4, not A4, A3 sheets of paper and pencils, and we would break them up into pairs. Yeah. And they each would have, but they would be working side by side on an A4 sheet paper to start with. And we would put a picture up on the screen and they had to draw it. That was the task. So they have to draw it, and then everybody would put their name on it and share it round, yeah, and they would show it or hold it up and share it. And then they would stick them all up on the wall with blue text so everybody could see that the people in that zone drew that. And then we would encourage people to walk round. And each one had their name on, and they also had a badge on that had a number. So they could be number 6, number 7, number 99. And then as we went through the day, there'd be other team building exercises and different things. And then when it got later in the day, we would say that we were going to break, that they could choose their team and they had to paint a canvas. Right? So
Okay.
they assumed they had to paint a canvas. But what they had to do, they were all given individual canvases that when put together, that would be the canvas.
So each canvas was part of an image, and when you put them all together, you have the complete
You
image.
got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what they had to do was work out as a team how that was going to happen. And also work out, that's why they had the number. Because each canvas had a number. So they knew, and we had a grid up there that we would just scale it out. So number 1, number 2, number 3, everywhere on that grid. Yeah. And so when they laid it on the floor, their painting would come together.
Right.
The other bit was that some would say, well, I'm no good at sketching, but there were some people there that you'd think would, could be teachers who was that good. Now, we run the model, say around, we come back after lunch, we run it. And it'd be like a 2-hour activity. And we would put we come back from lunch about 2 o'clock. By 4 o'clock, they would have done the activity and it would all be there. And some people would be laughing. Yeah, because it looked like a 2-year-old done it. Some were really good. It really lined up. And so I said, rather than judging yourself or assessing each other, what would you do differently now?
Mm.
How could you have utilized each other's skills? How could you have communicated differently or asked questions differently? Bear in mind, all the pictures were up on the wall from the first exercise we done in the morning for you to walk around and assess. So I said, I don't think anybody has any problem colouring in. So I said, that's all the hints I'm going to give you. I said, tomorrow morning when you come back, we're going to run the exercise again, but this time we're going to end up with that result. Tonight, we would knock off about 4:30, and the reason we're knocking off is so you can plan.
Right.
And you've got a list of everybody's names and numbers, everything on the wall. I'm leaving. Your information to make this activity happen is here. Yeah. Now, where it leads back to this is each grid you've got there would be a separate part of our canvas in a roundabout way. The only difference is here, you're doing every single part. In their case, each person would be delegated to do a part or would collaborate on a part. So one might sketch it out and then pass it like a factory to the next one.
Right.
And that's where I think that entrepreneurs, one, they don't do this part of not broaden it across everybody. A lot don't.
Right.
And because of that, and it's also when they're talking about their vision or their mission, which you need a vision, you need the mission. But
Yep.
when they're down into the intricate parts, let's say the finger or the thumb on his right hand down here, when they're talking about their vision and they're talking about that part, they need to know that that part needs to be expressed and who it needs to be expressed to. But if all they're ever talking about is the canvas and they haven't broke the messaging down, or if somebody asks them, yeah, I don't deal with that part, Cameron deals with that part, I'll set you up a meeting, how you fix for Wednesday, and Cameron will run you through everything to do with the left arm. But what entrepreneurs do, they feel, imagine, and think and believe that they have to do everything themselves. And then that's where it slows their success down, because they have to learn to draw the arm. I can't draw an arm. I need to learn. And then they go after the certificate, where all that really needs, Cameron, you're good at drawing left arms. I'm good at drawing right arms as well, Lee. What do you need? And that's where collaboration can come in. Cameron's already done the work, done the skill. How long will it take you to draw a left arm like that, Cameron? 5 minutes?
It depends. Yeah, I could.
How long did it take you to learn to draw an arm like that?
That's a very different question.
You got it. And that's the point in the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are never going to learn everything. All what they need to be wise enough to know how to scale this down and know who can do the other bits.
Life's not long enough to become an expert in all the bits you need to make a successful business. But there are people out there who you can partner with or hire all day, every day, who are subject matter experts in all the bits that we need.
You got it. And that's now you're here in this place, on this part of the canvas, you've scaled it out. And that's when we're scaling a business, whether we're just going from idea and scaling to reality, it does need some form of concept scaled out. And the challenge is sometimes people aren't good at that, because they get caught in their own thoughts or feelings, or they start thinking on other people's behalf. What's the process that you go through here that gives you confidence and gives you clarity and that concrete feeling that you know you're going to end up with this? Because there's
what I
something
said a
at
moment.
this stage, and there's something at this stage that you already know you're going to end up with this. And that's what a good entrepreneur will do. They already know they're going to end up with this. But this bit here, whatever your process is, that I think is a very powerful metaphor. Yeah. So I'll let you pick it up from there, if that's all right.
It's, as I said a moment ago, sheer repetition. Developing my process through sheer repetition. I know how necessary this step is. I know the kind of success it will set me up to have further down the line. So I know through experience, one, how much time to put into it. I also know how much time I don't need to put into it. If you can advance just a little bit, yeah, that's good. There's a level of detail that I need to get everything in the right place, and no more. If you stop it right there, you can see I'm just describing the edges of things. The edge of the arm against the background, the edge of the shadow, and just there's a level of detail I need and no more. So I know how much to obsess and how much I don't need to obsess. There's a break point. I could spend countless hours making that stage a fully realized drawing in high fidelity detail. I don't need it for the next stage. And so it's a balancing act born out of experience between knowing how much you need to set yourself up for the next stage successfully and what is unnecessary. But that only comes through experience.
You made a reference earlier when we were bouncing it around before we started recording, just to get a theme. Like, we didn't know what we were going to say. We were trying to work a way out where we could communicate this effectively. And you referred to this bit in a off the cuff statement as a bit like paint by numbers. It's not, because you've done all the laying out. But
Right.
I thought that was a good reference, because where business is, bear in mind, similar to this process, there is a system to business which is a lot easier, I believe, than, I don't know how I'd learn something like that. Yeah, because it's not just painting, it's also how much pressure to apply, how to hold the brush, yeah, the angle of the brush,
Sure.
I'm imagining, yeah. So there's a lot
Yes.
of techniques, a lot of skill, yeah. A bit like when you're playing pool, how hard you hit the ball, yeah. The
Right.
point I
Right.
want to make is business is a bit like that, but it's actually a lot simpler business, because there is steps. Success leaves footprints. For somebody to be, I don't know, like you and do this, or to, a bit like, say, Elvis, if you took Elvis out of the box slightly, but Elvis was an artist in a different form, to the
Sure.
point that even 1977 he died, and people are still doing competitions to be like Elvis now. They're still sounding like Elvis, walking like Elvis, dancing like Elvis. The point I'm making, and it's the same with people like Beyonce, there's so many people that will copy an original. To be authentic and original is where your power is, which is what you've done with this canvas. This is an original painting by you, an original technique to get there. Where the bit is that paint by numbers bit, like you could scale it all out, and in box one, you got to do this color, box two, it's this. You could lay it all out, put the process in place. They
Right.
still wouldn't get the same result that you would get. Now, in business, it's very easy to hit the same result as long as you follow the system exactly.
Mhm.
Where what a lot of entrepreneurs do, they want to create it where it feels so authentic to them, and they sometimes won't compromise the feeling of success for the strategy and that repetition that's required to get success. Do you get what I'm going with?
I think so. I think so.
Because
And
what
and
enabled you, like to, like you said, like to get this end result, you've done hundreds of paintings,
you know,
and I doubt if your first painting ended up like that.
no,
Right.
no, it did not. Nor did the
So,
50th.
what
Um,
happened inside you that stopped? Because some entrepreneurs, one week they're certainly, or 1 month they're doing coffee machines, the next minute they're opening up this and they're doing that, and
right,
just keep flipping, lighted, and hoping that one day they're going to get the canvas right, the vision
right,
right, the communication right. Well, you didn't do that. You
right.
learned, because each canvas isn't like a business, if you know what I mean.
In a
If
way, it is.
Go on.
In a way, each art piece, each painting, each sculpture is launching a new business. It needs all that stuff to around it to.
But it sees the same stuff every time.
Yes, but it does need the same stuff
How
every
would
time.
you how
Like,
would you paint that without any of the stuff and not having any of the experience? How could you transfer that
right.
skill and that repetition? Could
Okay.
you learn that from somebody in an afternoon?
Conceptually, yes, but you would not be able to embody the lesson without acting it out repeatedly.
Right.
There's two points I'll make to answer your question. Number one, during the journey, okay, back up. Um, I was always this good in my mind,
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but the results didn't prove it. They didn't turn out this kind of way. So during the journey, there was a gap, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, between what I imagined, what I envisioned, how good I believed I was, and the results I was able to produce. So there was a gap between vision and technical mastery. The only way to overcome that is repetition. Now, in each piece, there was always something that was successful enough that made me feel like I was on the right track. But the
understand.
thing that created the breakthrough you were asking about a moment ago, and it's the thing that gets lost and buried when entrepreneurs bounce around to different things all the time. I was not a natural painter. I didn't start painting until I went to university. And for a long, long time, I felt like I was always groping in the dark. I'd finish a painting, go to the next canvas and stare at it and ask myself, how do I do this again? If something worked, I wasn't sure why it had worked, so I wasn't sure I could repeat the successful thing. If something didn't work, I wasn't sure why it failed, and so I didn't feel confident that I knew how to avoid the mistake.
Very good
What
point.
created the breakthrough was this. I spent a long, long time specifically as a portrait painter. Previous to that, I just painted whatever struck my fancy, a bit like the entrepreneur bouncing around from coffee machines to uh, whatever. Just
Used
one
cars,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, whatever struck my fancy, I would paint that. And there were bits that worked and bits that didn't. When I disciplined myself and forced myself to focus exclusively on portrait painting, it reduced the variables dramatically. I was making essentially the same type of painting over and over again. And very, very quickly, the things that were working revealed themselves. I started to recognize what they were, how I'd done it, to where I knew I could repeat it consciously and deliberately. The things that were not working started to reveal themselves very, very quickly, to where I knew how to avoid making those mistakes. And so there's a lot of benefit in getting very specific and sticking with it for an extended period of time. What that did is it cracked the code for me. Now I can
Sure.
paint anything, but I've cracked the code. I can get the same level or a similar level of the final result, which matches my vision, because I spent the time and I did the work. It's the scientific method in a way. Just crunch down and reduce the variables as much as you can. And what works and what's not working will reveal themselves a lot faster.
And in the early days, just a question: did you ever paint the pencils, or the paper, or the canvas, or the paint, or the brush,
Did I ever blame the materials?
or the light, or the environment, or
I'll say probably. I don't recall specifically, but I'll say probably.
because I think us humans that sometimes, well, I couldn't do it right because it was the paper, it was damp, it was this, it was that, that rained it,
Right.
and we find a reason or excuse. That repetition gets you out of those reasons and excuses, gets you into, because I mean, 1 minute, if you look at it this here, I mean, there it all starts to, you can start to see it. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, I mean, now it's, you think, hang about, has it gone backwards or forwards? Like, it's like, do you understand what I mean? I mean, if you look at the end result, I mean, 1 minute is here's black here, and this is sort of a blacky, that's the light, but there could be a bit of grey there and different things like that. And then when we look back here, it's like his hair's brown, and it's so you're building different layers up.
Very much so.
And how do you, and bear in mind in the artist bit, probably the wrong question to ask, but in the business sense, it's not, because two people want to run before they can walk. They want that big brand, and they don't realize it's layered up. It's layered up. There's so many different things that go with a big brand. It's not just the message in the logo, the website, and all of that stuff. The brand
Right.
story, the personal brand story, the professional brand story, the vision and mission, how they align, the recruitment strategy that brings on people that helps you scale it up. So many different layers in it. And it's those layers, like it's not just having a good quality product, it's also having good customer service. Not having a good quality product, it's having a strategy in place for lifetime value. Yeah. And to put all those in place, you need good metrics. So you need to know your cost per acquisition. You need
Right.
to know where's your audience hang out. Do they hang out on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, locally? Are we doing clicks and order and direct mail, like or like website and ads? Or are we doing a call to action on TikTok? How is it? Where? What part of the funnel and buying stage are they in? Do they know they've got the problem? And if they are they the problem you're selling? Could they're not even aware of the problem you're selling. They think it's something else, and they don't realise they're in the consequence of the problem. And the reason they've got X happening is because of the problem. But the client or the potential customer sees the consequence. And then you come with your marketing message and you start messaging the problem, and the customer needs it the most goes, yeah, I don't need that. I've got this. So when it comes to marketing, it's those layers where you build it up. So you start with the consequence, but obviously you're speaking to the market as if it's the problem. And then you start to layer the problem up for the customer to get awareness. That's what a funnel is. The customer gets
Right.
awareness. Then you've got the buyer's personas. Yeah, and some need to see it, some need to understand it, some need the stories to go with it. So you've got a layered approach to that market communication. Then they've got awareness. Oh, it's that's causing my problem. So I'm in the
Right.
consequence, and that's the problem. Now they have awareness of the problem, and now we have to make them aware that there's a solution. Because some people are so caught in the problem, they can't imagine a solution. And then you have to communicate in such a way that the person doesn't feel stupid, as in the potential client. So I've been doing this to
Right.
myself. Yeah. And so you've got to
Yeah.
communicate in such a way that you're being universal in your approach, and you're showcasing them that there's a solution to this problem. Then you introduce your product. Then you start to build the credibility of the product, the trust and the loyalty, and that's where you start to message your testimonials to showcase, yes, this is the problem. This is the product that will solve that problem. And this is how you know and you can embody that. And it's a layered approach where a lot of people
Yes.
think they're going to put a post out on LinkedIn or Instagram or stick an advert in the paper and they're sold, a bit like selling a car or going to
Right.
the supermarket buying a loaf of bread. So this layered approach to me, Cameron, is a very good metaphor, because if you look at it there, it looks like his robe is going to be purple. And up here, you think, how is it white? When, you know what I mean? It's like, well, it's grey here. I mean, but each colour choice is a layered approach to get the end
Yes.
colour. But that layered approach, I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss, combining that with the strategic layout and the architecture of it and the
Right.
scaling of it. When they're just doing a business on their own and are an entrepreneur, they're just on their own. When you start to scale that business and bring on other team members, yeah, or when you start to need more clients and you don't know what it is you're doing that got the clients in the first place, similar to you, that's where you track everything and you're split testing, A/B split testing. Once you've got your control and you know that this is working, now you're running an ad or a form of content against what you know works to try and improve on it. Because 1 or 2% conversion when you're into numbers, like if you've got 100 people coming on, like as prospects, and you've got a 20% conversion, yeah, that means like if you got it's 2 out of 10 are buying, 8 out of 10 aren't.
Right.
You're still paying to get those 8 to look at it. Then you've got to
Right.
work on your conversion message because your lead's correct. But now, what's the conversion? If you can go from like 3 in 10, that's a
Right.
massive, and you're spending the same amount of time, the same money. You've just increased by a third. If you can go to 4 in 10, you've just had 100% increase,
Yeah.
and your cost per acquisition goes down. So I've given a long-winded thing there because this design bit with this layered to get the end result Can you run
Right,
us through that? What goes on in your head and how, not how do you know, because we're not looking to paint the canvas. What we're
right,
looking to
right.
use is that method as a metaphor so people to have the awareness, oh, I should be layering what I'm doing a bit more. So over to you, sir.
Um, Go back just a few sec, 405. There. So we've seen this figure along the way. Just a pencil outline and then some zones within the pencil outline, and then just kind of a yellow and orange color, and now this, and then compare that to the final result at the end. You're right. There are a lot of layers that go into it, and many of them will get buried. And I'll know they'll get buried by the end, but they still serve an important purpose. And maybe that purpose is the layers will become more transparent along the way, and so some of this will still show through and help create the illusion, and some of it is just architecture and landscape to keep me on track so that I don't forget what goes where.
Gotcha.
um, I'm not quite sure how to speak to the point you were making beyond that.
How do
That
you know to layer it? Because in business, I know how to layer it, and I also know the order
right,
in how it goes together. A bit like a song, I suppose, or a melody. Yeah. So I know how the sequence goes together, which means I can replicate. It doesn't matter what business it is, I can
right,
replicate. But to transfer those skills, sometimes the embodiment of it, like you said, can be hard to transfer. But if you've got somebody that
right,
follows your lead, a bit like, I suppose, dancing, yeah, you're learning the
right,
waltz, yeah, the rhythm of it, yeah, you can't really teach because they've got the feeling. But the technique of it, and the thing with the entrepreneur, if they realize that they don't have to be the person on the brush, all
right.
they have is somebody that's very good with the brush, and they just got to delegate to that person, I need you to paint the left arm, or I need you. So those layers, in
Right.
your case, you're the person holding the brush. In my case, I might have 50 people to replicate that, if
You
that
know,
makes
the exercise you described earlier with the multiple canvases creating a single image. We ran a similar exercise in university, not very often, but did it
yeah,
at least once, where each student would start a painting. You know, we've got a model or a still life setup or whatever, and everybody's got an easel in the classroom, and everybody starts a painting. And then after 20 minutes or so, everybody would shift to the next easel. So you leave your painting on the easel, and all the students shift one over. So now you're continuing somebody else's painting, and somebody else is continuing yours. And we just kind of worked that around for a while until, the instructor called a stop to the exercise. And what was interesting about that was that, one, each position is a unique perspective on the same thing, whether it's a live model or a still life. When I'm standing here, it looks a certain way. When I'm standing over here, it looks different. I'm also, when I start a painting, it's on my terms. But when I'm shifted to the next canvas and there's a painting that's already begun, I have to react to what is there rather than what I might wish was there or what I wish they had done for me.
yeah,
And
very good.
collaboration is a lot like that. You can get some really solid, legitimate, reasonable results, but they're never going to be the tightly controlled results that you'll get if you do it all yourself. And maybe that's the trap with entrepreneurs. When we fall in love with our vision, We want our vision by any means necessary, which means we usually want to hold on to it and do everything ourselves. When the
It's a bit
fastest
like
route to success is to
yeah.
enlist and cooperate with other people who may have better ideas than you in some respect. They will certainly have different perspectives than you. And you run that exercise a few times, you start to realize, well, this person's really good at getting paintings started and setting it all up for really beautiful success. This person's a terrific finisher. You could call them a closer in sales.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just set them up to where all they do every day is close. This person's great at copywriting and marketing.
Mm.
It's so much faster to succeed when we can specialize in niches where we're better at that bit than anybody else.
I think there's a part there that just nudged me a little bit where there's a company that, as an investor that we're working with, is investing into, and we, myself, Vic, and Alan, were working with the team. And one of the questions I had to ask, well, not I had to ask them, and bear in mind we work with a lot of companies like this, and this person was the only one I asked them. I said, would you have a problem if we were to replace you as the CEO of the company? And the reason that question was relevant, and this is, I think, a massive thing that, especially when we're going for the big brand and the big business and the big scale, like, is that they don't realize that an entrepreneur doesn't realize a lot of the time that they're going to be replaced. They have to replace themselves. They have to put better people in the place. They have to put, if they, I want to learn to be the best leader in the world. Yeah, you ain't going to have time. And it's not you've either got it or you haven't. You're going to learn some of the fundamentals, but you're not going to learn. Like some people can walk in a room and they own the room, and some would call it arrogance or control. It's not. It's just like you said. They're just very good in that space.
Right.
And there's an air about certain people, and it's a bit like Alan, Vic, and I work together. I know what Alan's good spots are. He knows what my good spots are, and we just move. So you're hearers. If you watch us in a team environment, as in not so much in the ECI space, but in the space that we own, as in the bit we're very good at, is we just pass it to each other. Even if the question
Right.
comes, I would say I would give an introduction to it because so I'm validating the person that's asked the question. But you'll hear me do it on some of the network meetings.
Yep.
Our default to Sandra D, or our default to Alan, our default. You'll hear me put that language in.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And the reason I do that, because I already know it's not my skill set. Can I give oh yeah, I could probably give a way above average answer. But if you ask me about charisma in front of the camera or how to coach that, yeah, I can give you some good points. I've represented Ireland in an international speaking competition for Toastmasters. I've been on a speaking stage like, I don't know, 15 odd years, trained people in it. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm nowhere near as good as Sandra D.
Right.
And
And
nor
that's
do
not a
I need
negative
to be.
reflection on you.
No, that's the point. Nor do I need to be.
Right.
Because
Right.
I'm a
It's a lot
different
like
art.
volleyball.
Go on.
It's a lot like volleyball. Every time the ball comes over the net, there's three things need to happen. There's a bump. When the ball comes over the net, it's coming very fast. And so somebody has to slow it down. That's the bump.
Yeah.
And then somebody else sets the ball, which means they gently lob the ball upwards to a very specific point that's followed by the spike. The third person on their team spikes the ball as hard as they can across the net to try to score on the other team. And it's repeated every single time.
Yeah.
Bump, set, spike. And each person has to be really good at each of those bits in order to score the point on the other team. But they are three distinct activities.
Mm. And that's where I think I'm going to come off the share for a minute. That's where I think entrepreneurs keep moving themselves to what's next. So they judge themselves and assess themselves, and they go, I know how to close. So they're always closing, but they're not giving any more detail or any vision. They don't need a vision because, as far as they can see, are close. And I've seen it as a big company that we work with, and the CEO of that is very much like that. He's always closing, and he's very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
There's another company I work with. They do a lot with airlines, and you could put their CEO up in front of 100,000 people, and he could sell a vision better than anybody, better than any of the top iconic speeches. You put him on stage, and it's real for him, and you can see him move the whole audience. Put him in a room with his team, and they're lost. Put him in a room with the big picture 5 years out, everybody knows. Take it down to detail. He can't do what you can do and take that canvas down to individual brushstrokes or lines or scale. And that's where I think some entrepreneurs beat themselves up, where I'm severely dyslexic. I can't read menus. I don't need to read a menu because I go to whoever I'm out with. I was out with you. Cameron, what's it say on there? Now, there's a general stuff I recognise. Yeah, I'm in a restaurant. I know roughly burger and chips. Yeah, I know what that looks like. But if it was like anything, if I was in a fancy restaurant, I ain't got a clue. Absolutely lost. It might as well be in Chinese and Arabic all mixed up. I wouldn't have a clue. So I just go, even to the waiter. Yeah, so if I was on my own, I would say to the waiter, I'm very sorry, I can't read properly because I'm dyslexic. Would you tell me to read the menu? And some laugh because they think I'm, which doesn't bother me because I've been laughed at thousands of times because I can't read road signs But the point I'm making is that bit we can't get caught on. The bit that it enabled me was I know that there's so many things I'm bad at, but I don't worry about that because I don't need to be good at them.
There's a saying that I like very, very much.
Go on.
Build up your strengths until they crush your weaknesses into insignificance.
Very good, yeah.
And you're a brilliant example of that.
And the bit where I think and this is where I think it's relevant, is I don't need to know all things. Yeah. Now, if you put that into the building trade, I grew up on the tools. I grew up because my dad had a building company. So because of my dyslexia and my English accent slightly, I didn't do the conventional schooling. My schooling was on a building site. Right. I learned how to do angles and different things like that. Now, if you ask me, tell me not 10 non-ferrous metals, I could tell you. Yeah. If you ask me, I don't know, 35 12s, 420. So while I was working on a building site, my dad would throw questions at me. Year of the Magna Carta, 1215. Yeah. And he was just throwing questions at you. Yeah. Who was known as the Sun King, Louis XIV of France.
Right.
So that was, I was you'd be plastering a wall to do bricklaying and he'd just walk in and throw a question at you. Yeah. And he'd just come around the corner and say, I don't know, 1122 is 242. But he wanted an answer that quick. He wanted your brain to work that quick. While you were learning plumbing, and the way my dad taught me was, watch him. Right, now come and do the job and tell me what you don't know. So if it was plumbing, what is it? You go and do the job and you lay it out and you do everything. And he'd want the same quality of work that the professional would deliver from you watching him for, say, an afternoon and working with him. So sometimes my job was just to stand there, and as he's putting the pipe on or doing this, was to ask questions. The next day, I would be given the same task to do, and then the plumber would come in and tell me where I'd made mistakes and what I'd done wrong. Not in a punishment way, not in a stupid way, in an education way. And I would imagine it would have been similar when you were doing the canvas, that when you done it, it might have been the best painting you ever done, but compared to Michelangelo, or Rembrandt or whatever, or Turner.
Or even compared to what I intended to do.
Yeah. But now it can be hard. soul destroying when you think you've done a really good job.
Yeah.
And it can be an emotional roller coaster. But where you've done 600 or 700, or if not more, paintings and sculptures,
Right.
that roller coaster ride, I would imagine you got to a point now where, yes, you're very passionate about your emotions and that bit that is you that's involved in what you're doing. However, you're not losing part of yourself because you didn't hit the mark. Am I making sense?
Yes, I think so. And part of what happens is, well, as you have repeated success of some level or another, your confidence grows.
Mm.
But what also increases is your intentionality, your ability to create exactly what you meant to create. Whether or not somebody else likes it is a separate issue.
Mm.
Whether or not they would have done it the same way is a separate issue.
Yeah.
And you know that there are a lot of things in the entrepreneurial world as in the art world where sometimes things are not about being right or wrong, they're just different.
Yeah. I suppose one thing in, and I think you know this already, Cameron. Phoebe, my daughter, started a new business recently.
Yes.
Yeah. And Ros and I have some outbuildings, and she asked for one of the outbuildings. She'd had a chat to mum first, and Phoebe,
Right.
in my head, I thought she was 19. She's not, she's 18. And Phoebe was talking to Ros, and she'd had that conversation for a month or two. I was aware of it, but Phoebe hadn't spoken to me about it. And then one day she just walked into my office with a coffee and went, have you got 5 minutes? And I said, yeah, go on. And she said, Mum said to talk to you. As soon as that came out, I already knew where we were going. And she said about, like, she wanted to open her own business and this, that, and the other. And she wanted one of the outbuildings. To begin with, she wanted the loan of it. And obviously, once she was earning, she wanted to pay us rent and whatever. So I said, fair enough. She said, so what do you think? I said, yeah. I said, I think it's brilliant. So she went, all right, so I can go ahead and do that. I said, oh, no, I didn't say that. I said, you asked me what I thought. I said, I think it's brilliant. I said, in my head, I said, it's brilliant, but thoughts aren't real. In reality, I need some substance to go with it. She said, what do you mean? I said, go and sell it. So I haven't got a business yet. I said, oh, I know that. I said, but we don't know whether you're going to have a business unless you can sell it. And to join that up into one of the businesses Ross and I run for about 30 years, and it was I could stretch and say it was the biggest in Ireland, but it was definitely the biggest this side of the Shannon. And we were the first in the industry, but I would dare to say, I can't validate it, but I can validate this. It was the biggest this side of the Shannon. That's half the country. But I would go as to say it was the biggest in the country and the best in the country. Everyone followed us. We set the trend and even set the product. I mean, we had to write white papers for the government. We had to set out Marshall ratios and different things for the insurance companies. We were that new to the market, you couldn't get insurance in what we were doing. Mm. So long story short, about 15 years in, 12 years in, something like that, we were always looking for it because we had loads of different products in like or adventure activities in our adventure park. Mm-hmm. And Ros came to me one day. Ros is my wife, for those that are watching that don't know Ros.
Right.
And she had seen this new idea. She said, I think this would go really well. I said, oh, brilliant. So what do you think? I said, that you're probably right. It was the first time Ros had ever come with like a product or an offering. Ros had sort of built the business, and it was always like a team environment. We were always somewhere we brainstormed it and then we developed it. So long story short, Ros was very keen about this idea, and So she said, what do you think? So I said, yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. I said, go and sell it. She said, well, how do you mean sell it? She said, well, we've got it. I said, well, fair enough. So what you need to do, I said, you need to find out how much it is, how much the insurance is, what's the Marshall ratio, what's the metrics, what's our profit, what area do we need to do it in, and work all that out. What's the delivery time, best case and worst case. I said, go and get all that information, that's the research, and then come back. So she come back and she said, well, it's 2 weeks from when you place the order, best case, worst case scenario, 4 weeks. I said, brilliant. How much? She told me. That's how much the product. How much the insurance? She told me. What's the Marshall ratio? She told me. What's the health and safety and training procedure for the Marshall? She told me. So I said, have you timeline that out? She said, yeah. Well, she said, we need 6 weeks. So she said, if we bought today and trained and done everything, it's 6 weeks. Yeah, but in 2 weeks, if we order the balls, 4 weeks. So I said, fair enough. Sell it 2 months out. So she sold it 2 months out. Now, when we opened that new section of the business, we actually made, on the first week we opened, 34,000 profit. So I explained that. All the insurance was paid. All the staff training was paid. All the staff time was paid. All the product was paid. And we needed 3 acres to put this in. All that area had to be fenced and drained and everything. That was all paid. And we had 34,000 profit.
Wow.
Why? Because Roz sold it from starting in 2 months and sold it forward.
Just to, what was the top line? I'm going to guess it was like $250,000.
Oh, it brought in about $500,000 a year.
No. I mean, to get that 34,000 profit,
Oh no, to
what
get
they
that
did had to do
34,000,
what? 150, 200,000.
150,000 to 200,000. But we didn't. And here the right way, we never put any of our own money in.
Yeah.
We knew how to sell it. We knew how to market it. We knew what we needed to know. And Ross started selling it minimum 2 months out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that meant we knew we needed like 3 weeks. Now we started the training with the staff because we already had staff. So we started the training, but we sold it 2 months out. And our first client came in 2 months from, say, 2 months from this Monday. And when that first client hit the soil, we already had 34 grand in profit. And the clients that had paid us weren't coming for, say, another 3 or 4, 6 months.
Right. Now, there's an interesting point built into there. Number one, knowing to ask those questions is not automatic. You had to learn that those questions are important and necessary in order to get the outcome you want, or to get the outcome that Roz was proposing. And that's a bit that a lot of entrepreneurs, well, we don't know what we don't know. And to illustrate, this just happened last week. My niece, who's 18, she needed a cavity filled. And she was feeling self-conscious and anxious about how much financial help she's been getting from her parents, my sister and her husband. And so when the dentist asked about a local anesthetic to do the work, she said, no, let's just go ahead without that. You can imagine what an awful experience she had and how quickly she reversed that decision.
Yeah.
And I said to her today, I reached out to her today to ask how she was doing. But I said to her, if nothing else, you've learned an important lesson. The local anesthetic for dental work is not the place to economize.
It's a good point, though, very valid point. And I think that's the bit, because a bit like when I asked Ross those questions, yeah, because the idea was very important to Ross.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, it's our business, but there was also the husband-wife role. Yeah, so
Yep.
Sometimes I didn't know whether Roz was talking to me as my business partner
Right.
or whether
Which hat are you wearing right now? Which hat do you think I'm wearing right now?
you got it. And my wife could have been talking to her business partner, or my business partner could have been talking to her husband.
Right.
Where I could have just said, yeah, but I wouldn't say yeah because we would both be penalised. So emotionally,
Right.
yeah, so I have to be respectful for it. But in the business, it's metrics. The
Right.
same with Phoebe at 18. As soon as she said it, I said, sell it first. And she looked at me as if to say, well, I don't know how to sell it. I said, well, talk to your mum. Talk to your mum.
She's
I
been
said,
through this before. Yeah.
yeah, and which I knew. I said, your mum's an expert. Go and talk to her. And then I said to Roz, teacher, don't do it for her. Teacher, don't do it for her because she needs to embody that brush.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if Roz retires or Roz and I go off and live in Spain, her business is finished. And too many entrepreneurs get carried to the podium and lifted up in first place because of somebody else's brushstroke.
There's one more idea. I'm sure we're running out of time,
Oh,
but
yeah,
there's
I'm going to go in
one more
2 minutes.
idea to squeeze in on that what you just said. In art making, there are hundreds of different brush styles and sizes to choose from. There are hundreds of paint colors to choose from. And you could spend all your time deciding which tools to use. The fastest route to progress and to get on with the work is to rightly or wrongly say, that's it. I'm going to use these 3 brushes and these 5 colors. And you can make different choices with the next one. But when you impose that kind of discipline on yourself, so that I could use anything, but I'm going to use these 3 brushes and these 5 colors and just get on with it.
It's a very good point because I would say perfectionism is procrastination. So it's a similar theme we're coming to, where if I'm in 2 minds about something, 2 minds means I've got 2 pieces of data and I can't choose, they're both a void to me.
They're both reasonable, right? Yeah.
So I just eliminate. Yeah. So and it works for me because I take away all the noise. I'm not interested in the finer detail. The one thing I need to know: can we sell it? If we can sell it, then what's our margins on that? Brilliant. That means we got a scalable, sellable product or a sellable, scalable product.
Right.
So a business now, it might be made up of several products, yeah? Might be made up of thousands of products like a supermarket, Walmart. But what's the scalable model? Where if it goes back to you when you're drawing the lines out, you're scaling up from that little 9x12 card up to like a meter plus canvas.
Yep.
And that's the same thing as scaling a business. So when we're scaling, the one thing we must be able to do is sell it. And I think sometimes I'm not saying I'm right, it's only a thought in my head, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I think people overcomplicate it. Where to me, I think it's this way. And the reason I'm saying it, and I'm not talking about me, I'm trying to express something that's actually a bit like you said with them brushes. There's thousands of outcomes, but if you just choose 3 or 4 brushes and 3 or 4 colours and the size of the canvas, you can take away a lot of the noise very quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot more complicated than this, but if you had to take away the noise, these would be the brushes you would choose every time. Right. Where does your product or service or offering, what price point does it fall into? Does it fall into, it's the Goldilocks syndrome. Is it cheap? Is it in the middle? Or is it at the top end? It's right. One of the 3. So what market do you want? I want to be high end. Brilliant. Is your product or service or offering of a high end quality?
Right.
Yeah. Or are you representing junk as high end? No, it's a high end quality. Brilliant. So before we go to target market, what brands or offerings are similar or would complement or associate with your product, service, or offering? Yeah. So if we put it into the clothing world, what well, it would be Armani. Okay, if we put it into the restaurant world, it would be Michelin Guide. So we're up into that area. Brilliant. Right. So would it be in the Gucci or the Rolex? Yeah, it'd be Gucci or Rolex. That'd be my type of clients. That's the sort of money. Okay, brilliant. So now where's all the Gucci shops? Where's all the Armani shops? Yeah,
Right.
what's that got to do with it, Lee? Because those shops will tell you where your target audience hangs out sometimes.
Right.
And once you know where they hang out, because Armani does, I mean, I don't need to go and do all the market research. I just need to piggyback off of all the market research that's been done by Armani or Rolls or, yeah. So Rolls-Royce used to run adverts. They don't run adverts anymore because they know exactly where their target market hangs out.
Right.
And it's normally when they sell airplanes, big airplanes.
Right. 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 Private jets.
And they're buying jets, and then they go, I mean, you just spent 35 million on a jet. You want to buy a Rolls Royce for like $1 million quid? Yeah, why not?
Yeah. After looking at $20 million private jets, a $500,000 car is an impulse buy.
You got it. So, because when we're starting out, we think of like we're on training wheels, we're in this embryonic stage, and when we think about ourselves that way, and when success or business growth is defined like climbing a mountain. See, climbing a mountain is very much like painting a canvas, because one step is one brush at a time. But the same analogy as painting a canvas as climbing a mountain is, and I'll show it to you, that summit, that's the end result. When we're growing a business, half of them don't even know what summit looks like, but they put it through a step by step. It's about the climb. It's not about summit, but no, it's about summit. It's about the end result on the canvas. You have to reverse engineer it with all the little brush strokes. The point I'm making is this: is that when you take it back to 4 or 5 brushes and a few colours, you can, like you said, on the next canvas, you can change it.
Right.
And you can improve on the last canvas.
Yep.
But start selling something first. But too many people want to get their logo right. Too many people want to get their website colours right. And I don't like that blue. I don't like that green. And failing to realise it's not about what they like. It's about, well, does that green fit with that target audience? Goldilocks, lovely girl. Yeah, lovely girls. Yeah, that's too salty. That's too hot. That's just right. It's the Goldilocks syndrome. You must know who your Goldilocks is. Yeah. Elvis Presley, absolutely a phenomenal artist and singer. And generations, like even my sons and daughters listen to him. However, they would listen to him, but would they prefer Ed Sheeran in their timeline? Yes.
Probably.
That's not saying Ed Sheeran is better than Elvis, but to them, Ed Sheeran is better than Elvis. Now, Ed Sheeran's a phenomenal artist. Yep. The point I'm making is this. Once you know who your target audience or market is, you might know who they are, but you should know what pay grade they're in. Once you know that, if they're in the high end, you've eliminated all council estates, all trailer parks, all Walmart buyers. You've eliminated so much. Take away everything it's not, and you're left with the majority of what it is.
Right.
Once you know that, and you know what values and principles and what mission will call to them. Yeah. So then you look at the Armani colours, the Gucci colours, the Rolex colours, and you look at what's the difference between those and Walmart colours or those from McDonald's. And you look for the difference, because there's a massive difference. However, in all top brands, there's one thing that's very similar. They're all rich colours. And when you choose your green, then you'll know whether it fits your target market. How will you know that? Because you look at the green in Rolex. You look at whether Armani uses green, whether Jaguar or Daimler or Mercedes. Look at all the high-end brands. See what colours they're using, and then you'll know the palette of your target audience. If it's mid-range, look at the mid-range and you'll see your target audience palette. Then you'll know what color to do your logo.
Really quick, if we have time, I can illustrate an idea. Okay, number one, for their senior show at university, there was a painter who did a series of large paintings of dead animals, roadkill, using the color palettes designed by Martha Stewart.
Oh, very good.
That was the gimmick. She used
Yeah.
the color combinations that Martha Stewart Living promoted, but she painted roadkill. So that's a bizarre example of what you're describing. But here's the other thing.
Yeah.
For any artists
There's
listening,
also another bit there as well, that by saying that, and let's say this art, I don't know, it was this artist unknown, but by doing that, using Martha Stewart's colours and Martha Stewart's name, she was leveraging a well-known household name to elevate her brand. Most likely picked up on the news story. She's a smart woman or smart person.
well, no, but yeah, it was a very clever thing to do. Um, for any artist listening, especially landscape painters, this is especially useful for you. But as a broader illustration, this illustrates the point you were just making, Lee. There is a top 10 of best-selling themes in art year after year.
Yeah.
Number one and number two are landscapes and local landscapes. Those are the top two year after year. So here's what you do. You want to succeed as a painter? The easiest thing to sell is landscapes or local landscapes. So where do wealthy people live? Paint landscapes that wealthy people will see in their daily lives and show those paintings in their neighborhoods. If there are galleries there, try to get into those galleries. If there are luxury car dealers, try to do a show at the dealership. If there's a country club or a golf club, try to do a private members only show at the club. And you will be off to the races faster. What's that?
I said, and that's, you're getting the idea, because you must take your product, service, or offerings
Yes.
where your target market is, or if you're advertising with Facebook, Google, or whatever, you must display your ad or whatever
Yep.
where they're going to be. One last bit on that, because I think it tags on to this. Years and years ago, yeah, for those who don't know, bear in mind I'm saying this because it's true and it relates to what you were saying. Ros and I have got a private country estate, which means we've got a big house, we've got a lot of land and whatever, and a lot of built property on it. So years ago, this guy knocked at the door and he was selling us photographs, because it comes back, it was just on the bit you were saying about the artists, that they're going to paint a landscape. He was selling us selling aerial photographs. So we knocked on the door and he had pictures of our house and the estate from the air. And obviously he had his sales pitch and different things like that.
Right. That doesn't seem creepy at all.
No, it's not. He just knocked on the door. Ireland's a bit different. And I said to him, and now I was being what some might call facetious, I think is the right word, I said, a friend of mine's got a mobile home up the road there. I said, only about half a mile. You didn't happen to get a picture of his place, did you? He went, no, I didn't, no. I was all right. I said, another friend of mine, I said, you should fly over here. He said, we flew over here, and he named the places where he flew. I said, oh, fair enough. There's another friend of mine, got a small bungalow down on the left. Did you take a picture of his? He went, no. I said, all right. I said, why is that? I said, because you said you were flying over and took pictures of the area. He said, oh, no, we're flying over and taking pictures of Pacific areas. The point is that sometimes painting a landscape, you can get their house in it. Well, a friend of mine was an artist, it is an artist in the UK, and all he paints is racehorses. Right. But what he has is another friend of his who's a photographer that goes to places like Ascot and wherever, and only goes to the big races. Mm-hmm. Like the National and whatever, and he takes photographs of the horses winning. and then the artist paints that horse. He goes, his bloke who takes the picture,
Right.
gives them the picture, and says, "You can have it as a canvas." He makes a fortune out of it because, you get it. So it's the same idea as what you're saying about landscapes. The only difference is they capture a moment in time with a camera, and the guy has like a, I don't know what you call it, tent's too crude a word for it. Has like this
Pavilion?
Yeah, that's a much better word for the target market. Pavilion.
Yes.
Like easels with horses painted on them, and there's pictures of them in the owner's circle, and he showcases it.
Right.
The photographer, who works with him or for him, I don't know, takes the picture of the horse winning, gives it as a gift, but at the same time, tells them, I've got the picture where I've got the horse coming over the line. If you come over to the pavilion, at whatever time, and then when they come over, they've got the target audience in the tent, and they see all the canvases, and they've come for their free picture. And it's a marketing funnel.
Absolutely.
Very clever.
Yes.
And they go, and we can do that, and they've got it all there. And you talk to Cameron, he'd take you all through it, and we've only got 5 minutes. So that's all right. It takes a few minutes, and they run them through, and they set them up, put them in the system, and it comes back to the paint is on behind the fireplace, because anyone at that level, they're not worried about 20 or 30 or 50 grand or whatever the price is.
Right.
But the reason that's relevant is because it's relevant to marketing. It's all right painting or creating a product, whatever it is we must be able to sell it.
Right.
But what too many of us think, rightly or wrongly, because I don't know, it's a bit like putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come idea.
Yeah, and it's also, well, I need that color logo. Have you researched your target market?
And there's truth to that idea, but it's not a complete truth.
No.
It does move both ways.
And not only that, Cameron, if you build it and they come and you meditate as well, it all works out. That's me being cheeky,
Facetious?
I think. Yeah, facetious.
No, it's just not complete.
Say again, sir?
It's just not complete.
No, and now I'm not saying meditation is brilliant, but the ones that do it that are the masters of it, like Rembrandt in meditation, they sit in caves and people bring them offerings because they've dedicated their life to it. And I mean, that dedication, hours of solitude and years, nothing wrong with it. But none of them are wealthy.
Right.
And there's loads of good artists, and I'm sure there's loads of people with good ideas. But what I can say is one of the core things you're always going to need is to be able to sell whatever it is, whether it's a painting, But sometimes reverse engineering that, selling isn't the end result. And it comes back to that pavilion. Where are they?
Right. Like you say, it's reverse engineering. I mean, you have to have the passion for what you're doing, that will motivate you and excite you and keep you going when it gets hard, because it always gets hard. And so it's kind of a two-pronged attack. That's kind of on the end of, if you build it, they will come. Do the thing that you most want to do.
Yeah.
But starting from there, who wants that? Where are they? What else do they do?
That comes back to the layers.
Yeah. Yes.
Not one thing, it's
you can't do that one end in isolation without information and without research and without reverse engineering.
You got it. But if you notice this, like you said that when you were at university or wherever it is, or when they move around each other's canvas. Yeah. Now, I've done that with flip charts and a team building exercise, and they write down their ideas and they're working as teams, and then you move the team around to see what the other team's done. Then they come back and add on to so they improve on their idea. Then what you do is if you want somebody to learn, I don't know, to be comfortable in front of a group, you might say, right, Cameron, with you, we'll come to you and you can explain what your team's going to do or what your team done and what they worked out. So rather than hanging one out, you start with, say, Cameron, because Cameron's confident speaking, and then you'd fit in the odd one so they get used to speaking, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't where I was going with it. Where I was going with it was this, is that concept of what you did with the artist. So, for example, with me, if I was bringing an idea to market or whatever, and I wanted branding done or whatever, I'd phone a mate of mine, Chris, up and say, Chris, we're doing this. I need you to do me X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And because he's a designer. I know the bloke since I was 8 years old. Absolutely phenomenal designer. He used to do signs and logos when they had to be painted.
Right. Right.
Now he's got a print company. And his dad used to be a designer for Rolls-Royce, and his dad also trained Chris. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know Chris is brilliant at what he does, so I just give Chris a brief. Whatever Chris gives me, I run with.
Mm-hmm.
I tell him the target audience, what I'm looking to achieve, yeah, and he'll go, right, leave it with me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his son works in the business. He's third generation in that business. Yeah, so he's the third generation. I don't argue with Chris. I tell Chris exactly what I want, and I know Chris cares about. One, I'm a friend of his. Yeah, and we go back. I'm 60 years old now. We go back 52 years. If I don't trust him by now, yeah. So I just phone him up and I say, Chris, that's it done. Once he gives me that, then I phone my mate Matt Bannon and I say, Matt, this is the logo, blah, blah, blah. I need some brochures on this. This is the copy for it. I need you to get your guys to do it. Because Chris doesn't do that, see. And Matt Bannon, yeah, who has, what's it? I can't remember his name of his company now. I can't remember his name of his company. He'll come to me in a minute.
What city do they work in?
His name is Matt Bannon. Can't remember his company. Paul and Matt Nicholas uses him as well. So I just phone up Matt and I say, Matt, I need this. Done. And he'll say, how many do you want? I'll say 5,000, 10,000, whatever. Business cards, whatever. I don't get caught up in it. I let Chris do what he does, Matt does what he does, that's it, done. And it comes in a box.
Yep.
And they go, well, just proofread it. I go, I don't spell, Matt. How can I proofread it? I say, oh, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Didn't know they spelled your name wrongly. Yeah, I'm worried about that. Don't matter to me. So I get Roz to proofread it. Roz proofread it. I don't all yeah. But the point is, if you can't delegate to the people with the skills that's gone to college, that are experts in what they do, that have done it for years, and you think you know better than them, yeah, that's being a control freak. So to me, I let people do what they're very good at, and they do that. Me, I'm a conductor.
Right.
Don't need to play a musical instrument. Can I play some? I can't musical instrument. But in business, I can step into roles very quickly, and I can step in that area very well. However, I don't. I do my best to stay as a ringmaster or a conductor. The point of me saying that, where I think it would help entrepreneurs, we've all got people around us. Now, some of us might be a bit of a lone wolf. I'm a bit of a lone wolf. Yeah, an alpha, not an alpha, a sigma. Yeah, I can spend hours, and I would say you being an artist, you're probably similar, Cameron. I can spend hours on my own, doesn't bother me. I like the clarity, yeah, so I love meditation. I mean, I'll go for a walk, and I can, in my own head, I can spend a lifetime of being happy over the moon. But when I'm in my head, I'm designing, creating, putting formulas in place, and then when I sit down with somebody, probably a bit like you with that canvas, I can say, John, I need this, Ross, I need that, Paul, I need that, Frank, I need that, and I can tell them in the right sequence I need it in. And I never give anybody too much pressure. John, I need that tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. John, this is what I'm looking for. Can you achieve that yet? Need it to this level yet? When you've got that, I need you to pass it on to Roz. Roz is going to do her bit. She's going to pass it on to Chris. When Chris does his bit, he's going to pass it on to Matt. And then Matt's going to pass it back to Roz. And then we're going to go and run an event.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done that in the real world where I haven't seen anything, even the pull-up banners, till we go in the room.
Right.
And I've never once gone, why'd you send me that? Because I don't get personally caught up in it, because it's not for me.
Right.
Yeah, if I make pizzas and I don't like pepperoni, and every time somebody orders a pepperoni pizza, I get triggered.
Right.
I gotta love you,
Well, if you
leave
didn't
it.
place the order,
Huh?
well, if you didn't place the order and you didn't tell anybody you don't like pepperoni, it's
And
kind of
that's
silly to get angry at the outcome.
you got it. You can't get triggered by it. But if we know that we've got to have a customer, they live or sleep somewhere.
Mhm.
They're in a certain wage, yeah, income, or they're not in a wage and they're already successful. Successful people, very successful, don't have a wage, don't even know what it is. Probably do they work, yeah, but not the way some people work. They don't trade time for money. Money's a tool, like a
Right.
hammer, a chisel, a
Right.
saw. So in some art, it can be an asset. It can be a tax write-off. It can be an investment. When it's a portrait for, say, somebody personal, it's now personal. If it's an investment, then it won't be a portrait. So Banksy, if you look at Banksy stuff, for example,
Right. Right. Right.
yeah. So an investment falls into now. If I get a picture, a portrait of Rosdun or the kids, that's something personal. So that now that's fine. But if it's an investment, you're a tax write-off.
Right.
Means it don't
Unless
cost. It don't
unless
cost
somebody
nothing.
commissions that portrait painting for display in their corporate office or as a gift to the CEO, you could probably write it off your taxes then.
Oh, you're good. But that's the point. But if it's an investment, then it can go on the company balance sheet and add money to it as long as
Yeah.
it can be an investment. If it's for a gift to a
Right.
corporate client, then it can be written off of taxes depending
Right.
on the
Right.
gift tax and the state and country because it changes. From
Yeah, it does.
there's so many different ways. The same as like with some of the products or services I do, I'm a tax write-off. They're either going to pay the government or they're going to pay me. Difference is
Right.
with me is I increase their value.
Right.
So with some people, when we're talking about some people's products are a spend and some people's products are an investment. Butter, sugar, coffee, milk. Now, coffee, to some people, they're an investment because they're part of their business. Some people sell milk, butter, coffee. Some people consume it. You
Right.
just got to know whether your product or service, if it's a consumable, doesn't mean it's a food, is if it's like paint, yeah, for a business. You paint the business, brilliant. You've had all the paint, it looks brilliant. Elevates the brand a bit, but that was maintenance.
Right.
You can write off a tax, but would it increase it if it's done correctly? Possibly. When you're painting your business, you could ask your clients what colour to paint it, and then it can be used as marketing. It,
Absolutely.
you understand me? So there's so many different ways to go with it. I've got to love you and leave you. Cameron, we'll do another one of these if that's all right with you. I've got to go
Yeah.
now because I intended to be off sooner, but I think it went very well. I've got to run a mastermind in 15 minutes and I've got to do some prep for it.
Fair enough. All right. We'll do this again.
Thank you, everybody. We'll touch
Okay.
base on WhatsApp and we'll leave this bit in so it's very raw and authentic. And we're
That's
just going
right.
to.
We
Okay,
were
mate.
genuinely making this up as we go. So
Well,
see you
definitely.
next time, folks.
Take care, buddy.
See
Been
you.
good to see you.
You too.